Welcome to Global Monetary Watch, where we take a grounded and meticulous look at the shifting tides of the international currency markets and the regulatory frameworks that govern them. For those of you who have held assets like the Iraqi dinar or the Vietnamese dong for years, the current landscape is no longer defined by vague rumors or unverified claims, but by the emergence of concrete, structured documentation that requires a high level of personal preparedness. It is essential to recognize that we are moving into a phase where the details of the law, specifically those found in the recently discussed March Gazette, carry more weight than any headline or speculative theory. This document is not a mere suggestion or a casual update. It is a formal publication from a central authority that outlines the rigid rules, procedures, and consequences for currency redemption. Understanding this process is the difference between being positioned for success and being left behind when the window of opportunity finally opens, as the system is designed to reward those who have treated their holdings with the seriousness of a legitimate financial asset. The foundation of everything happening right now is the March Gazette, a document that establishes the legal ground rules for what is often referred to as the redemption process for private currency holders. When a central authority publishes a gazette, they are essentially codifying policy into law, moving beyond the realm of informal discussion and into the territory of mandatory compliance. This particular gazette opens by establishing a very specific notification window, and the first thing every holder must internalize is that this process is fundamentally digital in nature. There is a common misconception that one can simply walk into a local bank branch or make a standard phone call to initiate an exchange once news breaks, but the Gazette explicitly refutes this notion. The process begins with what are termed verified digital notices, which are secure, encrypted messages sent only to those who have followed the proper registration protocols through authorized dealers or official central portals. This handshake with the system is the only way the authorities can verify your existence as a legitimate holder and ensure that your appointment information is delivered to you securely and directly. It is vital to distinguish a verified digital notice from the myriad of unofficial communications that circulate during times of high interest in the currency markets. A legitimate notice will never come through a random social media message, a text from an unknown number, or an unsolicited email from an individual claiming to be an official from an exchange center. Instead, it is a formal appointment code generated after you have successfully registered your intent and your holdings within an authorized system. The Gazette is unwavering on the point that there will be no walk-in service under any circumstances. If a holder attempts to bypass the digital registration and shows up at a redemption center without a verified code and a scheduled appointment, they will be turned away. This is not a matter of bureaucratic inflexibility, but a deliberate structural choice meant to maintain order, protect the integrity of the financial system, and ensure that every person entering the facility has already cleared preliminary background and documentation checks. The timeline for this process is described in the Gazette as a use it or lose it window, a phrase that carries significant legal and practical implications for everyone watching this. When your assigned window for notification opens, you are given a strictly defined period to upload your digital documentation, confirm the serial numbers of your notes, and finalize your appointment time. If you allow this window to close without completing the required steps, you risk losing your place in the sequence or, perhaps more importantly, facing a significant change in the terms that were originally offered to you. This is not a casual transaction that can be handled at your leisure. It is a time-sensitive operation that penalizes delay and rewards the proactive holder. The system is built to process a high volume of people in a very short amount of time, and there is no room for those who are unprepared or who fail to act when their specific notification is delivered. Preparation begins with documentation, and the requirements laid out in the Gazette are both thorough and non-negotiable, starting with the proof of lawful acquisition. The core of your application must be the evidence that the currency you hold was obtained through legal, transparent means via licensed and authorized dealer. This requires original purchase receipts, not photocopies, not digital screenshots that lack verifiable metadata, and certainly not verbal assurances. These receipts, combined with the specific license details of the dealer who sold you the notes, form the backbone of your claim to a legitimate exchange. Many holders who purchased their currency years ago may find themselves scrambling to find this paperwork. But the Gazette is clear that the burden of proof lies entirely with the holder, as the authorities must ensure that the funds entering the banking system are not the result of illicit activity or unregulated shadow markets. Beyond the proof of purchase, the Gazette introduces a requirement that will require meticulous effort from every holder: a comprehensive list of every serial number on every note in your possession. These serial numbers are not just for your records. They will be cross-referenced against a massive central database designed to identify counterfeits and notes that may have entered circulation through unauthorized channels. This quality control mechanism is the primary way the system reconciles what authorized dealers reported selling against what is being presented for redemption at the centers. If a serial number cannot be matched to the database, or if it flags as having been part of an illegal shipment, that specific note will likely be rejected. This is why being organized now, long before you are under the pressure of a ticking clock, is essential for a smooth verification process. In addition to currency-specific documentation, you will be required to provide 2 forms of government-issued identification and a verified proof of address, such as a recent utility bill or a formal lease agreement. For holders based in the United States, your taxpayer identification number or social security number must be on file as part of standard anti-money laundering and know your customer compliance protocols. While some might find these requirements intrusive, they are standard for any significant financial transaction of this scale and are necessary to ensure the process meets international banking standards. Having these documents organized, current, and ready to be scanned into the digital portal is a foundational step that should be completed immediately, as any discrepancy in your personal identification can lead to delays or the immediate rejection of your appointment request. The Gazette does acknowledge that not every holder will have a perfect, straightforward documentation trail, and it provides specific legal pathways for those who inherited their currency or received it as a gift. However, these situations require a much higher level of effort, specifically the filing of a notarized affidavit that clearly outlines the chain of custody for the notes. This legally witnessed statement must explain exactly how the notes came into your possession, who the original purchaser was, and provide any supporting evidence like estate records or formal letters of gift. Because these cases involve more variables, the Gazette warns that the review process will take significantly longer than the standard path. If you fall into this category, your task is to begin gathering this evidence and consulting with a notary now, as attempting to resolve these complexities after the notification window opens will likely be too late. For those who purchased their currency from private individuals, informal markets or unlicensed sources, the Gazette presents a much more challenging outlook, describing these situations as facing heavy hurdles. The entire screening process is built to act as a filter that prevents illicit funds from entering the formal global banking system, and notes without a verifiable provenance are viewed with extreme caution. If you lack proper receipts from a licensed dealer, your best course of action is to seek guidance from a legal professional who specializes in currency law and financial compliance. There may be narrow avenues available for verification, but they will require professional navigation and a level of scrutiny that far exceeds the standard redemption process. And there is no guarantee that such notes will be accepted for exchange at the same rates or terms as documented currency. It is important to understand that the rigorous nature of these requirements is actually a protective measure for the legitimate community of holders. By implementing biometric authentication, serial number checks, and thorough documentation reviews, the authorities are ensuring that the process remains secure and that only those who followed the rules are able to participate. These barriers are not intended to frustrate the honest holder, but to eliminate fraud and provide the international banking community with the confidence needed to support such a large-scale event. When you view the process through this lens, the technical requirements become a sign of the system's legitimacy rather than an obstacle, and your commitment to preparation becomes your greatest asset in navigating the transition from a holder to a participant in the formal exchange. The physical appointment itself, as described in the Gazette, is a highly structured event that takes place at a designated redemption center, often hosted within the infrastructure of a major international bank. This is not a casual meeting but a multi-stage vetting process where staff will verify your identity using advanced biometric scans, including fingerprinting and facial recognition technology. This data is matched against the profile you created during the initial digital registration phase to ensure that the person presenting the currency is exactly who they claim to be. The level of security at these centers will be equivalent to that of a high-level government facility, reflecting the sensitivity and the value of the transactions taking place within their walls. During the appointment, your currency will be processed through high-speed counting and authentication machines that are linked directly to the central database in real time. These machines do more than just count the bills. They assess the physical condition of each note and verify the serial numbers against the master list of authorized currency. Because the system is designed for maximum efficiency, there is no room for negotiation or manual overrides if your documentation is inconsistent with the notes you present. The Gazette makes it clear that if a discrepancy is found, staff are authorized to reject the application on the spot, which underscores the necessity of having your paperwork in perfect order before you ever step through the doors of the center. Appointments are expected to be strictly timed, typically lasting between 30 minutes and 1 hour for standard cases, though more complex files may trigger an extended manual review. Because the schedule is so tight, arriving late or arriving without the proper originals and copies of your documents could result in the immediate forfeiture of your time slot. This environment demands a professional and organized approach, where you are ready to answer verification questions clearly and provide any requested information without hesitation. The goal of the staff at these centers is to move as many verified holders through the system as possible, and they will prioritize those whose files are clean, complete, and easy to process through the automated systems. One of the most critical aspects of the appointment is the choice you will be presented with regarding your payout, which the Gazette categorizes into tiered exchange outcomes for those in the Tier 4B group. You will likely be offered 2 primary rates, a contract rate or a market rate. The contract rate is a structured arrangement that often provides a higher exchange value than what is available on the public market, but it comes with significant legal obligations. These typically include non-disclosure agreements that prevent you from discussing the terms of your exchange and multi-year payout schedules where your funds are released to you in increments over time rather than in a single lump sum. This option is designed for long-term financial planning and stability, but it requires a willingness to commit to the system's rules for an extended period. The alternative is the public market rate, which allows for an immediate conversion of your currency into a lump sum payment at the current prevailing exchange rate. This path offers immediate liquidity and does not carry the same non-disclosure requirements or long-term payout structures as the contract rate, but the exchange value may be lower. The Gazette is explicit that the choice you make at the time of your appointment is legally binding and nearly impossible to change once the documents are signed. This is why it is vital to have a framework for this decision before you arrive, considering your immediate needs, your long-term goals, and the tax implications of each path so that you are not making a life-altering choice under the pressure of the moment. To ensure that holders are making informed decisions, the Gazette instructs senders to provide detailed information on the contract terms and to allow for a reasonable period of consultation with legal or tax advisors. No one should feel pressured to sign an agreement they do not fully understand, as the magnitude of this transaction requires a high level of due diligence. You have the right to read every line of a contract and to ask for clarification on the payout schedules and tax withholding arrangements. Preparing for this choice by consulting with your own professionals now will give you the confidence to navigate the appointment with a clear mind, ensuring that whatever path you choose is the one that best serves your family's future. Tax compliance is another area where the Gazette leaves no room for ambiguity, requiring full cooperation with national and international tax authorities. Every exchange performed at a redemption center will be reported, and for residents of countries like the United States, these transactions will generally be treated as capital gains and subject to the relevant tax laws. There is no anonymity in this process, as your social security number or taxpayer ID is a requirement for verification. The Gazette even mentions cross-reporting requirements between international agencies to ensure that large transactions are monitored for compliance with global financial standards, reinforcing the idea that this is a fully transparent and legitimate process. The penalties for attempting to evade these reporting requirements or for providing false information are described as severe, ranging from the immediate forfeiture of funds to potential criminal prosecution. The authorities are making it clear that the path to a successful exchange is through absolute transparency and honesty. Instead of looking for ways to minimize reporting, the proactive holder should be working with a qualified tax professional to develop a structured plan that accounts for all obligations. A well-prepared tax strategy is not just about compliance. It's about protecting your new assets and ensuring that you can enjoy the fruits of your patience without the looming threat of legal or financial repercussions from the government. As the details of the March Gazette become more widely known, the risk of scams and fraudulent actors targeting the currency community increases exponentially. The Gazette warns that bad actors will often use the language of the official document to create a false sense of legitimacy, offering fast passes, priority access, or help with registration in exchange for fees or personal information. It is essential to remember that official communications will only come through designated channels and authorized dealers. Any unsolicited contact asking for your serial numbers, private identification, or physical currency should be treated as a scam and reported immediately. Protecting your information and your assets during this time is just as important as having the right documentation, as the final stages of a process like this are often the most targeted by those looking to exploit the unwary. The role of the international banking system in this process cannot be overstated, as large institutions will provide the necessary infrastructure for transfers, account management, and security. These participating banks will act as the gateways between the redemption process and the global economy, ensuring that every transaction meets the rigorous standards required for international finance. Many holders may find it beneficial to establish a relationship with one of these larger institutions ahead of time, as having an existing account and a history with a bank can simplify the process of receiving and managing a large influx of funds. While it doesn't grant you special treatment during the exchange itself, a solid banking relationship is a vital part of your post-redemption life. The Gazette also notes that redemption centers will offer preliminary financial counseling at the point of service, a detail that highlights the significant life changes this process can bring. This counseling is intended to help holders understand the basics of wealth management, the importance of diversifying their assets, and the value of setting up protective structures like trusts. While this on-site advice is a helpful starting point, it should be seen as a supplement to your own team of professional advisors. The goal of this counseling is to prevent impulsive decisions and to encourage holders to think about the long-term impact of their new financial status, ensuring that they are prepared for the responsibilities that come with significant wealth. Anti-money laundering and know your customer protocols are the threads that tie the entire process together, ensuring that the exchange is conducted with the highest level of integrity. These global standards are what allow international banks to participate in the process with confidence, knowing that the funds have been properly vetted and sourced. For the legitimate holder, these protocols are a welcome sign of the process's maturity and its acceptance into the formal world of finance. By complying fully with these checks, providing all requested data, and being honest about the history of your holdings, you are contributing to the overall success and legitimacy of the event for everyone involved. In the final assessment, the March Gazette paints a picture of a process that is as rigorous as it is significant, demanding a level of discipline and organization that far exceeds what many may have expected. It is a roadmap that leads from the digital portal to the physical appointment, and ultimately to a new financial reality, provided that you follow the rules to the letter. This is a time for quiet preparation, for the careful gathering of documents, and for the sober consultation with legal and tax professionals. The era of speculation is giving way to the era of documentation, and those who treat this transition with the respect it deserves will be the ones best positioned to move forward when the window finally opens. As we continue to monitor the updates surrounding the Gazette and the implementation of these redemption centers, our focus remains on providing you with the most accurate and factual information available. The landscape is changing rapidly, and staying informed through official sources and grounded analysis is your best defense against the noise and confusion that often surround these events. Your journey as a holder has been long and required immense patience, but the final steps of this process are where your attention to detail will truly matter. By focusing on the requirements of the law and the practicalities of the exchange, you are taking control of your financial future in a way that is both responsible and effective.